Um, because it doesn't really represent the Vietnamese community. Um, it represents, sort of sections of the Vietnamese community, um, and that particular section is like the young Vietnamese. Um, but also like because there are sections of the Vietnamese youth are homeless, and they come to Australia without their parents due to the escapes and from Vietnam and all that. They are very lonely, and so they group together. So there's a lot of anger as well. So if there an incident like that actually happens, there will be, that type, of action that we see on the screen. I think it's a little bit humble. Um, if if real Vietnamese youth, um, the particular youth that the film is trying to portray in the film, if that particular incident really happened, it would be worse. We would. When I say humble, I mean the sort of weapons that was used by the Vietnamese, and I don't think you really need sort of really that much because half of them will handle the skinheads anyway. But they would just clean it up, no trace. If the film portray Vietnamese youth as sort of really heroic, and they really like to fight, and they like to get involved in sort of street warfare and all that, the Australian will sort of say, well, no more Vietnamese in Australia, please. I think we see so little um, of the Vietnamese. I mean, the emotional side of it. We only see, the action bits. We've seen a little bit, the bit of the frustrations and from the start of the film. But because we see so little of it, and I like, there'll be I hope, I suppose, there'll be another film that we'll get to see the other side, why the young Vietnamese are really angry, why do they, form part of gangs, why do they live on the streets? There's a lot of unanswered questions, and what I see a lot of time is, the mainstream community take advantage, and also they sensationalize particular issues um, within the Vietnamese community, and also the number of the gang that exists, and the sort of crimes that they get involved in. Um, the police can't even prove a very big number, so, but when there's something, an incident that actually happened, I see that flash across the front page of mainstream newspapers and stuff like that. And sometimes that make me feel very upset too. We don't get people do something just to ask questions and see why certain thing happen, but mainly they just like to take advantage of it. I think maybe because there are sections of within the Australian community don't really like Vietnamese. I personally, for me, I feel the film um, basically shows, it's sort of like a symbolic thing too, um, because in Australia, skinheads aren't the real biggest problems for the Vietnamese. There was a group like the National Action Group a few years ago. I mean, I heard of them. They would directly aim at Vietnamese, and but I feel that these incidents do happen in other countries like in Germany, which is real big, where Vietnamese get attacked on train, and also the migrant hostels where they live. from what I feel is there is three different generations or three different groups, or if we groups them, of Vietnamese people. You got a group who have lived all their life in Vietnam, and you got a group who were born here or came here at a very young age, and then you got a group in between where half their life in Vietnam and half their life in Australia. They're the most confusing group who don't really fit in with either community, and they're the one who have most problem. But with the older one, I mean, they just choose to stick with their community and just the Vietnamese only community, and they know nothing else, you know, of the outside world. But because I have younger brother and sister as well, and they seem to fit in really well, and they have friends here, and they just live, you know, the contemporary way of life, so they don't have much problem. Even as I came to Australia in 1978 when I was 8 years old, um, but because my parents are really strict, and my dad used to be a teacher in Vietnam, so I had that strict upbringing, and it's hard because, you know, going to school here and you spend like 8 hours a day at schools, and you learn everything from, you know, your peers and also from the teachers, and then going home and your parent, you know, teach you how to live the Vietnamese way of life. They tend to clash, and it was very difficult growing up in this country. Um, yeah, the president of the Vietnamese community saw the film, and also the Vietnamese council in Collingwood saw the film as well. Um, Artistically, they really liked the film because it was sort of totally different to what they've seen in the past, and also comparing with Vietnamese film, it's totally different. It's too real for them. But overall, they weren't offended by the film. They weren't offended by the film, and they were quite happy with it. Quite happy with the film. But if you ask them, does the film portray, uh, you know, the whole Vietnamese community, they would say no, it doesn't. It will portray some section of the Vietnamese community. But again, you know, it's a film. Um, well, I feel that racism in Australia have sort of changed. It hasn't gone away. It's just changed. Before it used to be more direct, and now it's indirect. Um, to me, because I feel racism is it's by not doing things, not sort of doing things directly. For instance, if you know, we have an ads on TV which doesn't portray or doesn't show a particular race, and only show a mono race or whatever, then I feel that they're indirectly doesn't recognize. And to me, that is racism. That's one form of racism, and I feel that is still happening a lot more than the direct one. I start I start acting in 1995 and had a small role in a mini-series called Sword of Honor. At that time, because the mini-series about Vietnam War, so they need heaps of Vietnamese extras, and I just put my name down, and at that time I was helping my mum in a restaurant, so I came along and just got this part. It wasn't an extra part, it was like just one day of work. It was a feature, a small feature part. After that, I auditions for a theatre piece with Handspan, working with Mary Custis and Roberta McCulley and Sally Minter. And it's a sort of theatre and education program. And we tour Melbourne Metropolitan and the country, and also go to South Australia and perform at a few arts festivals and all that. That was a really good sort of learning experience for me, because that's where I started all, to learn about acting and all that, and especially working with really good people who just recently graduated and they got out of drama schools and all that. It was a very good experience for me, and it's really hard too. And then after that, I got lots of other parts, more bits and pieces. I've worked on All Together Now, on Channel 9, work on Embassy, and I just recently worked on a Film Victoria project for legal aid called Just Rewards.